company, an entrepreneur. And I say that intentionally for this video of where do we go from here, Juneteenth post retrospect. But let me step back before I go forward. I do believe that social justice today will increasingly be seen through an economic lens. I want that to sink in for a minute. That civil rights emerged in the streets, and civil rights will emerge in the business suites with regard to its impact. But Juneteenth, is a complicated holiday, and a prominent comedian that I normally agree with a lot, I won't mention his name, he said recently that, only in America, in the world, do you ask for justice and they give you a holiday. I understand his point, but I actually disagree with it. For all our problems, and America has plenty of them, it's actually one of the most amazing places on the planet. And if I ask this comedian, where does he want to get up and fly to and move to, is it a country in Africa? Is it a country in Latin America? Is it a country in Europe? Is it a country in Asia? A country in the Middle East? So on and so forth. My guess is he, after, much consternation, wouldn't want to go any place. Because with all of our problems, at least they gave us a holiday. I mean, it was the President of the United States of America. It was a Congress. It's people who disagree found that on this point, you had to acknowledge it. And that you wouldn't have that in China. You wouldn't have a minority group getting majority rights in China and voice and the ability to protest. You just disappear. You wouldn't have that in Russia. Sure. I mean, actually, forget a holiday or the right to express your opinion. If you're a prominent leader there, you actually get jailed and starved to death, just disappear. And there's so many places in the world, more places than not, where minority groups have no voice, no credibility whatsoever. So I want to give acknowledgement that even here in America, when we disagree, we find important times not to be disagreeable. I want to commend our leaders for making this Juneteenth. And by the way, this is a first federal holiday since, you may not know this, first federal holiday since Martin Luther King Day. Not the first Black holiday or minority holiday. It's the first national holiday since Martin Luther King Day. And in many ways, these are the bookends, right? I want to talk about. Really, the national holiday of Martin Dr. King's wife for pushing, along with Stevie Wonder and others, to make that real. Kudos to them. That was really about the narrative of our social justice, of our civil liberties, our civil rights, right? And in some ways, Juneteenth is an acknowledgement of the end of one economic cycle for Black people, and hopefully the beginning of another. What do I mean by that? Black people were the wealthiest, the most valuable asset that America had in the middle of the 1800s. We were more wealthy than railroads. You should read my book, Up From Nothing, where I go through this in some great detail. Untold story of how we all succeed. It's also a story of Operation Hope and my founding it, but the failures and not the successes. So it's about mindset. But I unpack in there that in 1840, the wealthiest city in the world per capita was Natchez, Mississippi. What businesses were they in? Slavery, the trading of slaves, and the auctioning of slaves, and in America, in New York City, came from the cotton trade, which came from slavery. That the first 350 years of our existence in this country was nothing but monetizing, insuring, financing, trading, underwriting slaves and the products that they produced. And that created the largest reverse transfer of wealth in America's history, which is Black people were not compensated for the fruits of their labor. We were not given a wage for slavery, for working. It's basic, but no one mentions it. And a result of that, you could not create capital because you were capital, bought, trade, insure, finance, and you didn't have the money to capitalize an investment to create wealth for yourself. So really, Dr. King's gave his life so that we can get back to a level playing field of just human dignity and basic access to a water fountain, going in the right restroom, right? But Juneteenth, the fact that it came late, really, that we heard about freedom somewhere between 2 years and 3 months too late, 2 years because of the Emancipation Proclamation, but in reality, it was only designed to be heard by slaves in slave states It was designed, it was a strategy to set free those who were oppressed enslaved states so that they would join the rebellion. That's what that was all about, if you didn't know it. But in reality, most people got freedom after the Civil War was proclaimed to be over. Let's just say, for the sake of conversation now, April 1865. So they didn't find out in this case, Galveston, Texas, until June. So it was delayed because in some ways you could say the economic interest for Black people, country, because at no other time did anybody delay counting us or counting what we produced or counting our value. In fact, it was enormously precise on Wall Street, as I just described, in Natchez, Mississippi, as I just described, in every way, including, well, I was going to talk about the Jim Crow era, but that's a whole nother video for another time. We were precisely counted, measured, and I mean, the one thing that folks got right is that, in fact, when we ran away, they were on us within, 2 hours. They had a whole party trying to, capture us because we were invaluable to them. But in freedom, we had no value to them. So in many ways, it will get around to letting them know they're free. There was no interest from anybody other than noble people in the Union Army who thought it was their right, their responsibility, to let us know that we were free. And I think it's symbolic, by the way, that the general who actually read, I think it was General Action Number 3, that notified us of our freedom, that showed up into the port in Galveston, Texas, marched through the city, a white general, and ended up at the AME Church, the African Methodist Episcopal Church, to pronounce our freedom. By the way, the AME Church, bringing this now full circle, responsible for the first Black corporation in America, the first Black hospital in America, first Black college in America, first Black company in America, the AME Church. So where do we go from here? I think that we've got to upgrade our software. We've got to become valuable to ourselves. We have to show up for ourselves. We were no more valuable to them, but now we got to become value to us. And by becoming value to us, can I get an amen? By becoming entrepreneurs and small business owners who are writing checks, not just cashing them as an employee, writing them as an employer, creating jobs, creating wealth, creating opportunity. We become relevant to the greater society. And now folks are not counting us, they're counting on us. Can I get an amen? The Citigroup report recently showed that discrimination against Blacks in the last 20 years, from the year 2000 to the year 2020, cost the U.S. economy about $16 trillion. Trillion with a T. And if we just knock it off right now, the U.S. economy would pick up another $1 trillion a year. So that means that when you invest in Black people and Black businesses and Black communities and Black culture, not the least of which also women businesses and other ethnic groups, Asian culture, and even my poor white friends, when you invest in this part of the economy that's left behind, the whole economy grows. Or put it another way, my white friends need my Black friends to do better if only this, my rich friends need my poor friends to do better if only to stay rich. My rich friends need my poor friends to do better if only to stay rich. I say rich and poor versus Black and white because the color is actually green. That's the opportunity today, that the color is green. The new movement is in the business suites. That's where the change is, more so than the mean streets. We've got to move from a conversation not just about civil rights and civil liberties, but now economics, ownership, opportunity, and not just a discussion about 40 acres and a mule from, 150 years ago, circa January 1865, which is where 40 acres and a mule story came from. And after that came the Freedmen's Bank of March of 1865. But we've got to move from that story, from 40 acres and a mule, to 40 books in a bank account. Get knowledge in your head because no one can take it from you. Put money in the bank because then you get to leverage that and turn that investment, your investments, into capital, and to turn that capital into return and generational wealth creation. So we need a whole generation of entrepreneurs. We need to have a t-shirt that just says also Black capitalists matter. We need to let everybody know that when you add to the whole and you reinvest in us and you put us, you unleash us on the U.S. economy or wherever in the world, we add. Look at what we've done to professional sports. Look at what we've done to the arts, to culture. Wherever you put us and you unleash us and you invest in us, we kill it. And I believe that there's 2 to 3% of economic growth every year that's locked up because we're locked out. So to me, this is the end of one story and the beginning of another. And it's now out of vogue to treat us as an afterthought or to treat us as your asset. Now we're America's asset, and we should be a forethought because it's about emerging markets and we're part of it. I hope you like this. John Hope Bryant, what we do at Operation Hope every day is to become your financial coach, the private banker for the working poor, the struggling class, the struggling middle class, to move folks from renters into homeowners, from small business dreamers into small business owners, to move folks' credit score up to 700 because 700 credit score communities don't riot, to create entrepreneurs and small business owners and homeowners and those who are educated in financial literacy and how the economy works so that you can be self-determined in this new area of freedom. And you cannot self-determine yourself unless you understand how this economy works so that all people can come up from nothing. Go find my Hope Financial Coach near you today. We're all across the country increasingly. Download the Hope in Hand app. Go to operationhope.org. Create one of our 1 million, our new Black businesses through the 1 Million Black Business Initiative, hope1mbb.org. Take your life back. Follow Financial Literacy for All at Financial Literacy or FL4A.org. This is a movement. This is the third Reconstruction. This is what comes after we celebrate, rightly so, Juneteenth.